The following program includes the opinions of CONK News and those of the call-in participants. It does not reflect the views of our sponsors.
But I will continue to pray for them.
Yeah, they need our prayers. From the pages of CONK News at CONK.com and from the headquarters of CONK News at Broadway and Central in Northeast Minneapolis, welcome to this CONK News Weekend, your alternative Sunday political show for the weekend of Friday, March 24th to
25th.
Friday, March 25th to the 28th.
What year?
2022.
Okay.
All right, Zorro. I'm rocking it, man. I know what's going on. I'm Jim Peters. I'm the editor-in-chief of CONK News. Across the broadcast table from me today is CONK News contributor Tim Conaway.
Hey there.
And Zorro. Well, I never mentioned his last name. Well, I should probably do that.
I'm kind of like Lulu or these other one-name artists.
You're like Lulu?
Yes. Man, come on. She had one tune, and she made a lot of hay out of it, man.
Oh, it's a great song, too.
Absolutely.
It's a great song.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
But I would never say you're like Lulu.
Well, you've never seen me in a dress.
No, I haven't. And joining us from Joplin, Missouri on the Clean Feed, here's Larry Newman. Larry, hi.
Hey, good afternoon.
Larry, you're on the Clean Feed.
Yeah.
You think that's accurate?
No.
He laughs.
Yeah. You're not like Lulu, are you?
No.
Hold it. Larry, you do know who Lulu is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's the four of us, and then there's the five lesbians in Fresno who are listening to this. They know who Lulu is, and that's it.
We are old.
I was just thinking of Lulu, the comic strip, which is much older than anything you guys
Little
are thinking
Lulu,
of.
that's right.
Little
that's
Lulu.
Right. Yes.
Yep.
And Sluggo.
All right, I have an announcement before we start here. This coming Monday, we do our live broadcast, Blog Talk Radio show on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays on blogtalkradio.com, CONK News Happy Hour. We've been starting these shows at 4 p.m. Starting Monday for the next 2 weeks, we're going to start at 3 p.m. We're trying this as an experiment to see if this works out better or worse. We actually don't know what's going to happen. So it's an hour, or it's going to be an hour early for the next 2 weeks.
So that's 3 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern Coastal Time. And
No,
4 p.m.
4 p.m. Thank you.
Oh, 4 p.m. Eastern
We never
Coastal
get this
Time.
right.
No, we don't.
Yeah, see, it's a different time every. So it's 3 p.m. 3 p.m. Central Railroad Time, and if wherever your railroad clock is, that
You do not know what the fuck you're talking about, do you?
I was told there would be no math.
No math? Is that what you're saying?
No math.
No math. Oh, no math. Oh, no.
At one time in American
You brought up
history,
Lulu, man. It's like,
Yeah. One time in American history, there was railroad time.
Yes.
And that was whatever time the railroad decided it was, wherever it was they had a station, they would have a clock set to whatever it was that they wanted it to be.
Well, that's one way to get them in on time, huh?
Yeah. And then at some point, since the times were so different everywhere and there was now actually communication like telegraph or something, they decided to reorganize time. And it's an artificial construct anyway. Albert Einstein told me that, and I believe him.
Well, a few years ago, two guys won the Nobel Prize in Physics for proving that time actually exists. I don't believe it. I actually don't. I don't think time actually does exist.
No, it was a movie that they made, and
What?
with O.J. Simpson.
What the Jesus Christ? Too much free association. This is wrong. Your mind is like, whoa. It's like brought up Hulu. Hey, I want to talk about the railroad time thing. Now, we're all old here. Sorry, Larry, I'm putting you in the group here. So, did have any of you guys, wherever you guys in the old Penn Station in New York City?
Yes.
You were,
Yes,
huh?
yes.
Was it as cool as everyone says it was?
Well, my prejudice is that any train station from the old days was cool. But yes, Penn Station was a marvel. a place that was that huge. Well, they used to say the same thing about Grand Central Station, where if you stood there long enough, you would meet, people that you've met, in your
Yeah.
life, because that was just this place, this marvelous exchange. But Penn Station and Grand Central Station, I think, share that. I mean, Grand Central's on 42nd, and Penn Station's on.
My impression, though, is
34th.
that Penn Station was a little bigger and the ceilings were a lot taller. Is that true?
I don't think it was bigger than Grand Central Station.
Oh.
No.
I don't think so.
Oh.
I mean, I'm old, but I'm not as old as you.
Gee, thanks. Wow. All right, so let me ask you another question. You ever been to the Campbell apartment in Grand Central Station?
No, he and I have been on the outs for years.
No,
I mean,
no.
we do not get along anymore.
It's a bar.
Oh,
It's a bar that
Campbell,
used to.
Sorry, never mind. We'll edit that one out.
No, it was the guy who built designed Grand Central Station built himself an apartment way on the top floor, and now it's a bar. It's really cool, and not many people know about it too. But it's open to the public. Did I put you to sleep, Larry?
No, I'm learning all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, you're gonna learn all the bad shit is what you're gonna learn. All right, folks. So we play the.
I know.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't ever want to go to New York City.
Not anymore.
No, I
I
know.
was born there, and I don't want to go back.
That's sad. It is.
It is. It
I
is
mean,
sad.
I want it for many years of my life. I want to live there
I feel
so
the way
bad.
that I did back before Giuliani became mayor.
Uh-huh.
Except this is even worse, because now, I see so much more than I did when after I had left, and all I did was hear stories, and Limbaugh would talk about Dave Dinkins and all that. But now, you go on the internet and you can basically see anything that's going on. But it's, I don't know. I get caught a lot of times between wanting to bring attention to the idea of what's going on, but not sensationalizing the way the internet does. It'll take a few isolated cases and then blow it up, but the statistics are there. New York is turning into a toilet. As Chicago.
Let me
already
ask you:
has.
Do you
Yes.
think the difference is that when you go back to Dinkins, that was just incompetence, and
Yes.
now there's some deliberateness to
Well,
it?
No, I don't. The deliberateness of that was just thinking that they had a better idea. Okay, so it's like when Obama said, we're going to create a brand new country." What the hell was it? What was that famous quote of his? We're going to fundamentally transform the United States. In his mind,
Right.
he thought this would be a good thing. You know what I mean? But then again, the incompetence of putting forth what you would need to create that just sort of, it just happened all by itself. So Dinkins, same thing. De Blasio, same thing. Complete idiot, but very committed and believing what he did. I don't think he woke up one morning and said, "I'm going to destroy this city." In his mind, he's saying, "I'm going to make this city better." But he was just too stupid to realize that these things that they were going to enact would be awful.
Why do we keep electing
I
these
don't
people?
know. I don't know that they were stupid. I think they just were sold a bill of goods by somebody, and they believed it, and they implemented these horrendous changes to policy and procedure that created all of the mayhem that we see now. I don't think they were stupid. They were very smart people, but their philosophies just destroyed it.
You know why I think they're stupid? Because I went to one of those specialized schools in New York for people that had aptitude in a particular discipline, and those schools were fantastic models of what you could do with a certain segment of education. Take people with that showed an aptitude for something and really help them develop it. And so de Blasio, because he felt, based on nothing, felt that these things were somehow racist, even though the school that I went to was like looking at a kaleidoscope, looking at a color wheel.
Yeah. And no offense to you, that was quite a few years
No,
ago.
that was back
Yeah.
in the 70s.
Right.
And this guy says, well, this is for the privileged. What? What? Because you have to take an exam to get in, that suddenly makes you privileged. So I have to say that no, man, I think they're just stupid.
Yeah, well, the stupidity was believing in these socialist ideals, the socialist framework, because that's where all of the stuff came from. It was, or they were all heading towards that, whether they admitted it or called it that or not. All of those things that they were trying to do, or all of the excuses they made for the stuff that they were doing, all fit into that socialist pattern, and that stuff doesn't work. And they knew it then. They definitely should have known it, within the last 20 years. But so yeah, like I say, they're educated men, but they bought into some really not just bad ideas, but they bought into ideas that have been proven to fail.
And why do smart people buy into such bad ideas? I don't understand it. I can't.
Oh, you don't even have to finish the question. I can tell you exactly why.
Please.
Because they go to college, and what is it that you learn to do in college? You learn to rationalize things that have no rationale. This is the essence. I remember when I was in college.
Mr. Z, that's brilliant.
No, but it's true. I remember sitting in the cafeteria, and there were of the school where I went, and listening to people working out their debate skills, okay? And the points that they were making were inane, but then you'd have the classrooms and the professors, instead of encouraging them to whittle down what they were doing to the points, the really fine, intelligent, well-crafted points that had justification, they just encouraged them, just go ahead and debate. Doesn't matter what your opinion is, go ahead and debate. I can sort of see some rationale to that, but overall, I think that's the damage.
And
there.
Z, I don't have to tell you, of course, in a formal debate, you're supposed to be able to debate both sides of the issue, right? So I'm sure that might play into this somehow, but you're absolutely right in the case that, people, well, you said it better than I can just even repeat it. So I'm not going to bother to repeat it.
That's why I get the big bucks.
That is why you get the big bucks.
Yeah, trying to justify the opinion with whatever bullshit comes into your mind is not the same as being prepared to debate on a topic with real information. And I've seen it. Even when I was in college, there are all these book smart people. They can tell you what they read in a book. Or you run into people all the time that they're spouting something, and it sounds like they're reading from a book. You know that they got their information from the book, not from real life. They haven't had their eyes open to what's going on around them in the real world. They're spouting all this theory that they read someplace or that was told to them by some professor who also doesn't live in the real world. And, I dismiss those people right away. I don't even engage with them because they're not part of the world I live in.
Hey, Larry, so when you have to deal with some of the people that you bring in, I would imagine, speaking of rationalizing, you must hear the most extraordinary excuses for poor behavior that we would. I mean, I'm assuming this from having watched Cops. Have you had people kind of argue that the sun is green and the moon is black when it's clearly not?
Absolutely. All the time. They argue that they shouldn't be responsible because that's what they wanted to do, and you hear every excuse in the world, and it all goes back to I am entitled. I should be able to do what I want to do. I should be able to take everybody's property. And then when it comes to, most of the time, what I deal with is, why did you go to court? Well, I didn't want to go to court. Well, the judge told you had to be there. I don't care. I didn't want to go. I don't want to go. And it goes back to this previous conversation. It struck me that these people have an ego the size of the world because they're thinking that all of that communist theory, it failed before, but hey, they can do it and they can do it better.
Oh, right.
They won't make the mistakes.
That's the eternal argument, Larry, is that everyone else screwed this up, but we can do it right. We know how to do this.
It is the ultimate
Correct.
arrogance about socialism, yes.
Now,
it's the same arrogance that I see every day in all these people who just, I didn't want to go. I wanted to sleep in. So I don't care what the judge says. I'm not going to go to court. And
so, Larry,
those are the ones that I have to go pick up.
You see this every day. Z's a first-generation American. He has a unique perspective on this. Here's what I'm going to throw out. Is this an American thing? Is it Americans particularly that feel entitled? Because we have so much freedom, so we're free, so therefore we feel we can grab anything? Is this an American? Well, we do have more crime here than most other Western nations. I mean,
Yeah, it is. I think it is uniquely. Well, let me back up. I think it is what we're dealing with is uniquely American. It is the cancer of entitlement. I'm entitled. The government gives me all the money I want. I just talked to a girl the other day. She did not work one day last year, but her tax refund is $24,000. So that's free money.
That's what Milton Friedman called a negative income tax.
Exactly.
Well, hold it.
But
go ahead.
Go ahead. We don't trust. It's not that we don't trust the law enforcement or the government or the courts or anything else. It's, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And when I was working on the road as a deputy, I got calls to go to disturbances. And there would be family or social workers from the state on scene and telling parents, you cannot spank your child. You cannot require them to mind you. Well, what do you think's going to happen when they grow up? So I say it's uniquely American, but then you've got countries where crime is the rule, let's say in Mexico, and it's,
yeah, so Larry, I threw out that
that
question, and Z is nodding his head. What are you thinking, guy?
Actually, I was shaking my head because I was going to disagree with my dear colleague from from Missouri. That guy liked talking like a dumbass senator. Because I think that a lot of our attitudes come from Europe. Look at France right now. These are the people who think they're entitled to a 4-day
Two
work
brilliant
week.
ideas in a row. Keep going.
Look at England, and these are the people that came up with the Magna Carta, and somehow they've devolved to a system where they're entitled to pretty much everything under the sun. Somehow they manage to run, but they're going to cease to be England just because they have lost control of their immigration.
That's correct.
Just like
You're
France,
right.
just like
You're
so
right.
many other places. Poland is putting a stop to it. I think Germany is now that Merkel is gone, she's, they'll probably tamp that down. But I was having a conversation with a friend about the tax system and how we have gone from a tax system that was originally created, I'm talking before 1924, that was originally created when there was a need. We were at war, something like that. And pretty much wars were about the only reason that we had to tax people. And then all of a sudden, we have to help all the people that have been screwed in 24 wasn't the Depression yet, but they said, well, we've got to start to make this a little bit more equal. The ideas from 1917 and Russia were starting to
Forgive me, but
infiltrate.
the first federal income tax in the United States was only 1%. Isn't that right?
It was very, very small, two at most, but I think 1%. And it was 1%. It was for that. But now we have gone all the way from that to a tax system that is a behavior modifier. It encourages us to do certain things. It encourages us to buy the EV cars. It encourages us to develop ethanol
Yeah.
and sell it at prices and that don't reflect the real costs.
Right.
So I don't know. Everything is so bass-ackwards, as they say, that I don't even know where. I don't know what the solutions are to change the attitudes and the expectations that people have, because it's so inured into them.
Well, yeah, and it's like Larry was saying, and I was thinking while he was talking about the people that he's bringing in, they're basically saying, "You're not the boss of me." And I worked for a guy who had his son was like 7, 8 years old, and he told him to do something, and the kid yelled at him and said, "I'm getting out of here. You're not the boss of me." And his dad took him over his knee and spanked him and said, "Who's your boss now?" So that whole thing of, that spanking necessarily is the answer, but some kind of discipline. And, and I've seen this many times where parents are, "Oh, you're grounded," or "You're not going to have your phone," and you're going, this kind of stuff. And they keep that up for about 2 hours. And then the kid wheedles their way back into whatever it was they were going to be deprived of. So the discipline is not uniform, and it isn't carried out evenly. And that has now carried over into our justice system.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Larry, you want to hear? Go ahead. You talking now, because I had a story to tell you. Go ahead.
We had a situation this week, and we talked to Mama on the phone, and she said, "Well, he just wasn't raised this way." I'm sorry. I'm old, probably older than you guys, and I've seen a lot of kids. When you get out what you put in of your kids.
Yep.
Absolutely.
If you don't put it in the right thing, you're not going to get out the right thing. And I hear all these excuses, not just from the kids, but from the parents and from the grandparents.
Well,
We had one guy here around Joplin that was stealing everybody blind, and his grandmother would hide him like you wouldn't believe. Okay, and there's 3 generations of this going on.
Yeah.
So, you get out what you put in, and if you don't instill and show the right thing, you can talk all you want to.
Isn't the statement, "My kid wasn't raised that way"? It's become a stereotype at this point, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
it's like I hear this constantly.
Yeah. So, Larry,
it's an excuse. Yeah.
I'm about to warm the cockles of your heart with a very brief story about when my first job.
You'll never go back, Larry. Go ahead.
My first job was as a delivery boy at a local grocery store, and sometimes bosses, if they allow themselves to get too familiar, they lose respect. So I lost respect for my boss, and so I was sitting there and
how old are you? Like 16?
I'm 13. About 13.
Yeah.
And I'm sassing him.
Uh-huh.
Well, Larry, guess who walks in the door in mid-sass? My father.
Oh.
And he sees the look on the owner's face, and he says, "What's going on?" And he goes, "No, nothing." I said, no, really, what's going on? I said, "Well, he's disrespecting me." And he said, "Oh, really?" Larry, he grabbed me by the scruff of the neck, kicked my ass for a block and a half, took me to the car that was sitting in the open air car lot where the projects were, grabbed some I don't know where he got the water from and stuff. He says, "You want to work? You're going to work." And now I'm telling you, this is January. It was one of the coldest damn days. He says, "You will wash this car now." And I washed that car until my fingers basically couldn't even move. So, you want to know the next time that I sass somebody, an adult?
Never?
Never. It didn't happen.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. I learned my lesson.
I tell everybody, if your child goes up to a hot stove and puts their hand on it, and there's no pain, what have they learned?
Nothing.
They can touch
That's
that
right.
stove anytime they want.
Bad behavior needs pain. That's how we're made up. If there's no pain, there's no reason not to do it again.
And notice in America how everyone's avoiding pain like the plague. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
we avoid pain, all sorts of pain. Have you guys
That's
noticed
how we
this?
learn.
Have you guys noticed as you go to the doctor, the dentist, they are now so careful about every little thing they do. They say, this prick might hurt a little bit. Well, of course it's going to. Like, who the fuck cares? I keep telling
Well, you did care when you were, 5, 6
When I
years
was
old. You
5.
did, but you learned also you got over it and you got some ice cream.
my
out of
mother
it.
had to hide in the Nazis, in a closet from the Nazis for 3 months. Do I care about a pinprick?
Exactly.
No, I don't.
No.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus. Hey, guys, we're going to take a commercial break here really quick. When we come back, we might actually get to the news. That's still fascinating conversation nonetheless. We're going to take a break for 2 minutes. We'll return.
Thunderstruck. Adjective. Shocked and amazed by the power of fun on Carnival. Riding Bolt, the world's first roller coaster at sea, Brian got thunderstruck so hard, his 93-year-old grandmother felt it 3,000 miles away in Nebraska and immediately booked a cruise. Hooray! Get thunderstruck starting at $289. Carnival. Choose fun. Cruises are in U.S. dollars per person, double occupancy. Taxes, fees, and port expenses additional. Restrictions apply. Full details on carnival.com. Ships registry, Bahamas, Panama. Thunderstruck. Adjective. Shocked and amazed by the power of fun on Carnival. Riding Bolt, the world's first roller coaster at sea, Brian got thunderstruck so hard, his 93-year-old grandmother felt it 3,000 miles away in Nebraska and immediately booked a cruise. Hooray! Get thunderstruck starting at $289. Carnival. Choose fun. Cruises are in U.S. dollars per person, double occupancy. Taxes, fees, and port expenses additional. Restrictions apply. Full details on carnival.com. Ships registry, Bahamas, Panama.
This Easter holiday, see the movie based on the inspiring true story
Figured it out.
I'm going to be a priest.
For Halloween.
of Father Stu.
No one wants to hear the gospel from the mouth of a gangster.
Academy Award nominee Mark Wahlberg.
Maybe that's exactly what they need.
And Academy Award winner Mel Gibson.
Man don't lose when he gets knocked down, but when he won't get up.
God ain't giving up on you. Don't you dare go giving up on yourself.
When the man comes around. Father Stu, exclusively in movie theaters April 13. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Commercial did not run as long as we thought it would.
Welcome to the home of dead air, ladies and gentlemen.
But you'll never hear it because I'm a whiz with the scissors. Part 2 of CONK News Weekend. Got Zorro here, got Tim Conaway here. We got Larry Newman on the clean feed. I kind of like the sound of that. It kind of rocks. All right, guys. There's a war going on. I don't have to tell anybody this.
Yeah, you do. They don't cover it on the news, except for every minute of every day.
Yes.
And, speculating on when it's going to turn into World War III,
Yeah.
which really pisses me off. There isn't any real indication that's what's going to happen, but it just sounds so much better to these guys, to themselves, I guess, to be the one standing there talking about World War III.
Yeah.
And, why in the hell what happens in Ukraine can be covered in, a 10-minute segment.
Yes.
And we can get updates throughout the day if something actually develops. Why aren't they going around the clock saying, why aren't we drilling for oil on federal property where the drilling rights have already been leased? It's already been approved. The EPA stuff has already been done. Why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we doing something about the supply chain. These are real problems affecting us every day, and yet we don't get this round-the-clock coverage because nothing is blowing up.
Now, those of you who don't know, Mr. Conaway has an esteemed 50-year career as an editor of a zillion different publications. And so this is my question, and we've talked about this before. It's not an all or nothing thing. People can hold two different ideas, because you're right. It's not that no one doesn't want to hear about the war. That's not the problem. Maybe you even put the war at the top, but do we need to talk about it 24/7? That's the problem, I think. But, you guys tell me, am I just expecting too much of the public? I think CNN thinks the public's morons. Larry.
It's the big question is, what are they doing behind the scenes that they don't want you knowing about?
You mean for the war generally?
No, I'm talking about the war is cover for something else going on. Is that possible? Let's keep the war in the front of people's minds so we can get done things in the background that we want to do.
Oh,
we don't want them knowing about.
Wag the dog scenario.
Yeah, and I agree. It's like if they're not covering all these things that are really going on affecting Americans' lives, the supply chain issues, the price of gasoline, the double-digit inflation, if they're not talking about those things, then Joe can have a longer nap every day than he's having, and Jen Psaki can smart off to reporters again because they're only asking her about Ukraine and they're not asking her about the other stuff. No, I agree that they're not covering the hard questions because that would be embarrassing to the administration and to all the dumbasses in Congress. No U.S. Department, the Commerce, Transportation, Department of Energy, none of these people are doing a damn thing, lifting a finger. They're not getting questioned. They can all sit back and, we've got some blowhard who probably hasn't read a history book who's telling us about World War III without realizing that World War III means the end of the planet. If that's what they're auguring for, because that'd be an even bigger story. It's not a story they're going to get to cover.
Oh, they're just salivating over a big story. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's almost like they want to force it, almost.
Yeah, until that first
bomb drops.
Yeah, first blast of radiation.
Right.
Tears
on
out.
New York City.
Yeah, or any of the media capitals, any place that has, because there isn't going to be one bomb that goes off.
No.
The whole mass of them are going to be flying from everybody that's got them in every direction, and some of them they might be able to shoot out of the sky. When they hit them in the sky, it doesn't mean they're not going to explode.
That's right.
They're just going to explode on the spot, and then we get the 3 weeks of radiation cloud that kills everything.
Yeah.
Cher and Twinkies.
Was it you that said, Tim, or somebody said in the media? Yeah. So the difference is between dying instantaneously and a slow, miserable death in 3 weeks, right? That's the only difference.
Yeah,
right.
That's the thing. So that's what they're all, trying to promote out there, and speculating on that kind of shit is absolute ignorance in the first place. Particularly if you think, if they don't think that Valerie Putin is watching the news and getting all pumped up about the coverage, then that's all this nutbag needs. He's already started firing people, sending people to jail in his administration because he sent some FSB people in. When you're rounding up the fucking spy agency that rounds everybody else up.
That's right.
Yes. I mean, he's over the edge.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And then the Chinese, of course, they sit back and they look at our press and they laugh and laugh and laugh. You let these morons go on and on and on. It's our own propaganda. My God, it's just amazing.
This reminds me of what happens every time a Republican gets elected. Somebody comes out somewhere on the internet and does this list. gasoline costs this much. The inflation rate is this much. The unemployment rate is this much. Okay, let's see what it's like in 4 years. And they did that when Biden was elected. They had what it was under Trump, and of course they were expecting. Now he said, hold on to these numbers for 40 years and in 4 years and see what happens. And now these people are very, very quiet. Yeah. They don't say jack about this. I don't know this craziness about a war. You're exactly right, Tim. I mean, a real World War III with the weaponry that we have now. I mean, that's true. It's all over. It is like all of the things that they tried to predict on Star Trek, in both in the first and the second generation shows. Because whenever they would cite history, because of course this is the 24th century, right, and they start talking about World War III, which occurred in the in the late 1990s, and then later on when it didn't happen, then the Star Trek people said, well, okay, in the late 2020s, whatever, they kept pushing the dates back, and remember what all the stuff that they used to say about Reagan, this madman who was going to push the button?
Oh, yeah.
Nothing happened. Yeah. Trump, this madman who was going to push the button. And now look at what we're looking at. Joe Biden and, God help me, Kamala Harris. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Just the fact they have the button is just scary as hell, let alone pushing it.
And the thing is, Reagan not only didn't want to push the button, Reagan wanted total nuclear disarmament, because he saw that, if we ever use this, if it's the end, it's the total end. We need to totally disarm, because it's the end of the planet. And he's not, credited with that, but he pushed that very, very hard. He started the SALT talks. He started all these efforts, and of course, nobody, as long as somebody's got one of them, nobody else is going to give up any of them, but it's more than one. The Russians got over 5,800 nuclear missiles. We're close behind that. China's right there with us, and then we got India and Pakistan and, these other countries that may or may not have it. And it would take about a tenth of what's out there, because not only the number, but the number of kilotons of destruction, about a tenth of the nuclear arms in the world to destroy the planet.
Yeah, right. There's only 10% of what we have.
Yeah.
So, Larry, does this date you? Do you remember the term mutually assured destruction?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's crazy, And 5 years ago, we had turned Iran loose to build a nuclear bomb, and then, and Trump got that shut down. So what was the first thing that Biden's going to do? He's going to go back and turn them open again.
What the fuck is that about?
It's I don't get it. I don't get it.
And the scary thing about it is, okay, China and Russia and us and the rest of the world, okay, there's a little control there, except for maybe a madman. But you look at Iran. This is not about a personal ideology. This is a religious ideology to destroy the world, even if it destroys themselves.
Yes, that's correct.
That's somebody that's who you want to turn loose with some nuclear weapons? I don't think so.
And then you think about, I'm going to reiterate how this deal went down for those of you who can't remember. So we promised Iran to basically we gave them $500 billion. Then, but this is the part people forget. We unfroze $500 billion of money they already had in the United States. And then there was, I think, promises for another $500 billion for some contracts or something. We essentially gave them $1.5 trillion for the promise that they would not develop a nuclear weapon for 10 years. And we said nothing about the fact you can still send your physicists off to camp and give them notebooks and have them write shit on paper. Just as long as you didn't build it for 10 years, we're going to give you $1.5 trillion. $1.5 billion of it, 1% of it was cash. literally $50 bills they dumped out of an airplane. And so now you think about this. If you're Iran, and you want to destroy Israel, well, hell, we can keep this agreement. Do you know how many regular conventional bombs we can buy with $1.5 trillion? You don't need, we no longer even need this nuclear shit anymore. It's like we just, we empowered them.
Well,
what kind of stupid deal is that?
Well, and another thing.
But you have to look. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, Larry.
Go ahead, Larry.
What I was going to say is, okay, but you look at the philosophy. I mean, this goes back thousands of years to the philosophy of the leaders in Iran. Their religious philosophy is we're going to kill all people that don't agree with us, even if we have to kill ourselves.
That's correct.
That's a philosophy that they live by. Okay. The rest of the world kind of has some self-centered interest here. I don't want to use nuclear bombs because it might kill me. No. But that's not what you're dealing with Iran.
Yeah.
It's a totally different ideology and religious ideology.
Yeah.
They don't care if they kill themselves because they're doing what they were supposed to.
Yeah, and that's the big difference is this stuff proliferates into these various countries, and there's probably stuff going on other places that we're not aware of or we're not paying attention to.
Larry, are you okay?
Yeah, I just had to cough.
But, also these deals, that's another thing that the news isn't covering in their 24-hour-a-day Ukraine war stuff is these disarmament deals, these sanctions and deals with Iran and other places. The Biden administration is working out new terms and working on new arrangements in some of these cases, and they can do it very quietly and behind the scenes because nobody's paying any attention to that now.
You know what occurs to me? Hey, Jennifer Psaki, Space Force doesn't look so stupid anymore, does it?
No, it doesn't.
I wish I had 100 freaking satellites right over Russia right now.
Oh, you are so funny.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
I'm picturing, I did a little research. And for $6 quadrillion, do you realize that we could get a Death Star made?
$6 quadrillion.
That's all it is. I mean, if we had a massive bake sale, we could get this done, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what?
Pelosi can get the couch, can't she?
Larry's a Star Wars fan. He likes this.
For the $1.5 trillion, we could have a bunch of nice little satellite, ray beam, laser beam satellites up in place doing stuff. And that's the thing about Space Force to me is you got to have the equipment before you have the people. Getting a bunch of people trained to go out in space doesn't mean anything if you can't get them there. But we could send up a whole bunch of defensive satellites to operate in space, and we could do the training, blasting space junk out of the orbit, so that stuff's not in the way.
I would volunteer for that shit right now. Give me a cowboy hat and put me on a rocket just like Slim Pickens, man.
Well, we were just
out there.
Z before
that amount of money. For that amount of money, you could go buy all of the nuclear weapons that's out there right now and bury them someplace.
Yeah, just send them back to the
and
sun.
You wouldn't need it.
Yep.
Where would you bury them?
No, I'd send them to the sun.
Somewhere.
Where would you send them?
To the sun.
To the sun?
Yeah, let the sun eat up.
Have a big solar flare.
Yeah, but it's too hot. You'd have to do it at night.
Oh my God! God damn it! The humor's flying here. Holy shit! A bunch of old guys talking.
And that's why science.
Science, right?
Science
all right.
does not live here.
Conaway and Z, you were just before you showed up. Conaway and I were talking about this, or rather, I was talking and he was rolling his eyes because I'm the conspiracy theorist here. So I don't know if you guys heard this, but the former head of the Israeli Space Agency has come out and said that he says the Americans know and are in contact with the extraterrestrials, and that's even one of the reasons and that Donald Trump knew, and that's one of the reasons he started the Space Force.
Well, how do you explain Nancy Pelosi if we don't have extraterrestrials walking around here? I mean, come on. You think that shit is Botox? She's got another layer of skin underneath it.
Oh, my God. It's a disguise.
It's a disguise.
Holy shit.
That's why every time that she starts moving her mouth around like that during the speech, that's the inner alien trying to escape.
Oh,
She's
my God.
holding him back. Oh, no, stay in there, man.
You've had 3 brilliant ideas so far today. I mean,
if you were an alien, would you want to be in that body? I don't think so.
Well, that's why they came up with the term illegal alien.
Oh, my
that
God.
guy's fighting to get out there. He'll go to
Jesus.
jail to get out of that body.
That's funny. All right, guys, we're going to take another commercial break here. This is a good time to do it, too. So we'll be back in 2 minutes. Stay tuned, please.
Thunderstruck. Adjective. Shocked and amazed by the power of fun on Carnival. Riding Bolt, the world's first roller coaster at sea, Brian got thunderstruck so hard, his 93-year-old grandmother felt it 3,000 miles away in Nebraska and immediately booked a cruise. Hooray! Get thunderstruck starting at $289. Carnival. Choose fun. Cruises are in U.S. dollars per person, double occupancy. Taxes, fees, and port expenses additional. Restrictions apply. Full details on carnival.com. Ships registry, Bahamas, Panama. Thunderstruck. Adjective. Shocked and amazed by the power of fun on Carnival. Riding Bolt, the world's first roller coaster at sea, Brian got thunderstruck so hard, his 93-year-old grandmother felt it 3,000 miles away in Nebraska and immediately booked a cruise. Hooray! Get thunderstruck starting at $289. Carnival. Choose fun. Cruises are in U.S. dollars per person, double occupancy. Taxes, fees, and port expenses additional. Restrictions apply. Full details on carnival.com. Ships registry, Bahamas, Panama.
This Easter holiday, see the movie based on the inspiring true story
Figured it out.
I'm going to be a priest.
For Halloween.
of Father Stu.
No one wants to hear the gospel from the mouth of a gangster.
Academy Award nominee Mark Wahlberg.
Maybe that's exactly what they need.
And Academy Award winner Mel Gibson.
Man don't lose when he gets knocked down, but when he won't get up.
God ain't giving up on you. Don't you dare go giving up on yourself.
When the man comes around. Father Stu, exclusively in movie theaters April 13. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Hi, folks. These uncertain times can cause uncertain gut slowdown. Worry and fear can wreak havoc on our digestion, making it hard to feel optimum. Bloating, less energy, and occasional constipation can slow you down in your daily activity. Try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. Life Change Tea can help get things moving so you can get that boost of energy you need. Life Change Tea helps protect and defend your health from intruders. It's a weird time right now with all the uncertainty, so gear up and defend your health. Where do you go to purchase? Log on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. The specials are on the front page, and we have numerous supplements to help combat intruders. It's time to take charge of our health and to feel better in life. It's time to live. Again, GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
Yeah,
GetTheTea.com. It is so worth it. GetTheTea.com.
I didn't hear that.
Finally, the colors are back.
Part 3 of CONK News Weekend.
I can taste my thoughts.
All right.
We got Z in the house. We got Tim Conaway in the house, and we got Larry Newman in his house in Joplin, Missouri.
Yep.
So now, I don't know if you guys know this. The last week here, a whole bunch of people have been canceled on Twitter. Have been basically removed. The Babylon Bee was removed for naming Rachel Levine their Man of the Year.
So comedy is now
That's right.
Illegal on Twitter.
Comedy is illegal. That's correct.
And that's, there is a Supreme Court ruling that says that comedy, parody is protected form of free speech.
Yes,
and
but not on Twitter.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can't sue people if you're the butt of parody, and there's a rather large butt with attached to Rachel Levine that they're parodizing this whole "she's a woman" farce. But so it's like, despite the fact that this is protected speech, they're going to do that. Now, Twitter wants the Section 230 protections against liability from third-party actions. Basically, somebody says something on there, and Twitter can't get sued because they're the third-party provider of this
Correct,
thing.
right.
But if they're going to exercise editorial control over it, they're no longer a provider.
That's correct.
They become the publisher.
That's even in Section
That's right.
230. That's even, it says that in there.
Right.
That, yeah.
So, I mean, they're very clearly now not entitled to that protection.
Right. I don't understand why no one's calling them on this.
Well, Clarence Thomas, and hope he gets better. Doesn't have COVID, folks. He's got had flu-like symptoms and was in the hospital. He might be out today. I haven't had time to check this afternoon, but he intends to ask some questions. There is something coming up in front of the court, and he intends to ask some very serious constitutional questions about this because he believes the interpretation is that has been applied recently is completely at odds with the language of the legislation.
And from what I know, it is. I think he's right.
Yeah.
No, just let me ask an uneducated question. So this,
not you.
Did this all come from Congress? Did Twitter make appeal to Congress and have them pass a law about this? Is that how this went?
This was in 1996, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
So right, it's an act, which means it came from Congress or
Yes, it did.
Whatever.
That's right.
And signed by some president.
Correct.
So, isn't that the same body that cherishes something called qualified immunity, which means they can get up and lie their asses off about something, and you can't say, wait a minute, that's total bullshit. You're lying and you're disparaging people. They can't get sued.
That's correct. They can't.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right. The other weird thing about this whole thing, and I'm not any legal genius here, and maybe you guys are, I don't understand why anybody hasn't sued Twitter in civil court.
Well, and that's the thing. That is where Section 230 gives them protection against that kind of suit.
Is that type of suit? It's
Right.
not okay. All
Right.
right.
Yeah, it's not a criminal action.
Not a criminal act. Okay.
It's a civil action that you can sue Twitter because somebody said something false or malicious about you, and
got it. I thought it was all a criminal thing.
and
So
you've got it on, but they say, well, no, we can't be sued about that because of Section 230. But if they start editing some content on there, or they start kicking off users because of their content on there, that means they're responsible for all the content.
That's correct. It does.
So they can't have it both ways.
Well, this is like my argument about the tax system here. If you make a mistake, you pay the penalty, you pay the fine. If the government makes a mistake, they go, oh, sorry, you screwed up. And it's the same sort of thing here, is that they can screw up all they want, and there's no penalty. Right. But we're the ones that, if we want to use that service, then we're the ones that wind up, going to Twitter jail for however long.
Yeah, I was thinking about this on the drive here today, and I know you guys think I master the obvious, and it's true, I am. We've been giving the people in Congress shit for how long many of them have been there. I mean, there's a whole slew of these people who have been in Congress for 35, 40 years, right? And then, I'm thinking on the drive in, I'm thinking, well, there's a reason for they're there for 40 years. This is a really, really cushy job. Yeah. I mean, it's like just the most obvious thing. I mean, it's like, if you had this job, why would you want to give it up?
The worst that they have to go through is like maybe some tough interview. That's about it.
Yeah, that's right.
How many of them go back to their home districts and have their feet held to the fire?
Other than elections, it's virtually impossible for you to lose your job.
And even then, they don't.
That's right.
My policy on any of these people that are holding elected office where I'm in that district or state is I look at their record, what they've actually done. I look at also what they said they would do in election stuff, although more and more they don't say anything about what they're going to do. It's just about the other guy. But I look at what they do, and I look at, their record, and that's what they need to be judged on, and that's what voters should be looking at, not these ads, but look at the record of this person and what did they actually do while they were in there. What did they actually vote for and vote against, because that's holding their feet to the fire. They're not going to do a tough interview because this is all set up beforehand. You can't walk up to one of these people and start talking to them and expect to get any kind of answer. And if you try to schedule something, they want all the questions up front. They want, all that kind of thing. So, it's as long as they satisfy what the party wants, not what the public wants, the party will support them to get back in. And that makes it so much easier in so many ways than any of their opponents are going to have. And so, they're going to stay in there. Joe Biden is the perfect example. He's never done anything on his own. He's always done what the party wanted him to do, and so he got rewarded. That's why they dragged his ass out of retirement to run for president this last time. Not because he was some great candidate, but they owed it to him because all of the years that he kissed the party's ass.
Yes.
The voters have got to do the homework. Voters are responsible. When you complain about these people, it's like, well, if you didn't do your homework, if you didn't look at what they actually did, then don't complain to me about it, or don't tell me about all their campaign promises or all this other stuff. What did they actually do? If you don't know, you're not participating.
And it's a shame because the great unwashed really don't do any of that homework.
No.
Man. The most they'll do is they'll hear a headline secondhand from someone else, and that's as much as they'll go through. I mean, the things that people believe. How many people still believe that Michael Brown raised his hands and said, what is it, don't shoot or something like that? Well, hands up, don't shoot.
Yeah.
How many people still believe that? 3, yeah, probably. I mean, honestly, it's people really buy into this whole thing. The people will believe that the speaking of Joplin, Missouri, will believe that line, that Mark Twain line about this, the truth. A lie has gone around the world twice before the truth has had an opportunity to get its pants on. So I think that we. I won't go down the road and say that we're fighting a losing battle, but we are certainly not winning the battle. So look, hey, maybe we are now just because of Biden's incompetence.
And I was, I would say maybe we are because we're doing this.
Yeah, could be. Larry.
Larry.
And maybe we are. I ran for office one time. That was education. All of the good people. Listen, you boil it down to each little district, okay? And even like in Minneapolis, you've got your little districts. There's a half dozen people that go around and tell everybody how they're going to vote, and then everybody listens to them. Okay, happens right here. All these intelligent, you would think, intelligent people don't do the work to find out on their own. They wait for the district chairman, that one person in that district, to call them up on the phone and say, "This is how you're going to vote," and they do it.
Yeah,
that's how those people like Sleepy Joe get in for years and years and years and years and years. Okay, that's that machine that we always hear talked about in Chicago. That machine is everywhere. Okay, that's how it works. Just people don't think for themselves.
And the more miserable you make them, the more you make them have lives that are just full of concern, with an inability to really be able to separate their thoughts and think about stuff outside of their own personal situation, the more this is going to be
And
true.
this is, of course, they're basically trying to take this local template and apply it on the federal level. I mean, they are. They're trying to make our lives complex and miserable on the federal level because hopefully we'll do the same thing, which I find appalling. But Larry, to to your point, here in Minneapolis, we're dealing with even another. We've amped this up a little bit, and this is allegedly. There's been long rumors that Miss Omar has been paying her constituents to vote for her. I don't know if you guys have heard this.
Sure.
It's like, this is.
Sure.
I have no proof of this, but this has been long rumored in the communities in her district that her campaign has actually paid certain groups of constituents to vote for her. Now,
that happens.
The thing I find funny about this is you could take the money and vote for somebody else. No one ever knew. No, but I don't know. I guess people feel a certain reciprocity. I don't know. Whatever. Hey, have you guys heard this here?
I've heard that about elections in many places for a long, long time. It's not unusual, particularly if you represent an area where you have a particular part of the population that identifies with you, then it's, they might not engage whatsoever, but now, they're getting paid and told to go out and do this, and so they do it because it's part of their cultural identity or their social identity. But it's not the first time. These word healers that Larry's talking about is what they're called in Chicago. This has happened since the 1800s. The people gone around and done this kind of thing. So it's not new. It's not legal, but it's people aren't going to go in and confess that they got this. These people are usually powerful too. They're connected to local unions. They're connected to local business. They're people in the community that you're not going to turn on or turn in because the repercussions are much worse.
Right. Speaking of people that get, I don't know necessarily paid, but get told who to vote for. I'm a member of a union, and whenever we get our monthly trade magazine, and when it's coming to election, there's the inevitable op-ed for whoever the Democrat candidates are, and this is immutable. Mm-hmm. I have never seen.
That's what I was going to ask you. Have you ever seen anyone other than a Democratic endorsed?
And this is back when I was a Democrat.
Yes,
and I don't remember ever seeing that. So it's a lot of these unions, I think, forget the fact that way back in the day, a lot of Republicans were very strong and active in the unions, and all of it was about what was going to be good for the people in the unions, not what was going to be good for a select group in the party.
Hey Z, I've never asked you this, at least not on mic. You and I are both former liberals. Do you remember like the one moment where it kind of tipped for you? Was there one single moment? Or
yes, and it was I think the before Bush 41, I was just a political agnostic. I just thought both parties were crap, and I didn't I just didn't like them at all. And then when war broke out, I just got solidly behind our troops, having had members of my family that were in the service. I couldn't, I remember that was the defining moment. The one before that, however, was reading this woman, Our Bodies, Ourselves magazine, and seeing in the section on abortion. When it came to talking about abortions themselves, when it came to talking about abortions and the horrible things that could happen in these back alley abortions, they had these graphic, horrible photographs. When they started talking about the abortion process, all of a sudden it's like all these crudely drawn pictures that looked like the picture that you get on the side of the chopstick thing, when you get a Chinese meal. That's about as graphic as it got. And I looked at them and I said, wait a minute. Why are we graphic when it's that side, and why suddenly are we vague when it's this? And that's where it started, and it ended for me with the Desert Storm.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It would take up too much time for me to go into this, but it was an abortion issue that kind of started the whole thing for me too. I remember reading an article in the Star Tribune in Minneapolis here, and it was very obvious they tried to do this as balanced as they could, as far as like the two sides of the issue. But nonetheless, that said, it was plainly obvious the way the article was written that the pro-choice position was the quote-unquote normal position, and the anti-abortion position was the abnormal position. It was pretty obvious, really, and I thought, it doesn't matter what side you're on here. This is wrong, and that was the thing that started with for me too. Interesting. Yeah, you guys, of course, were conservative out of the womb, so I was like,
I wasn't. I was raised in a Democratic household. I was a young radical in college, but.
Yeah, but you just did that for the chicks.
Well, that and the drugs, but
and that's how you make a libertarian, folks.
Well, and the libertarian philosophy appealed to me, other than they don't actively campaign for office, but I was always opposed to the federal government. The power of the federal government is too great. The federal government's reach into people's lives was too great. That was my radical stance, was that the federal government would use its might against the little guy, but never against the big guy.
That's kind of radically libertarian in a way.
Well, it was that. So mine wasn't so much right-wing or left-wing politics. It was the federal government is out of control, and now this has gone on 50 years. It's gotten worse and worse since then. They're never going to let go of any bit of control they've got, and every time they get more, they say, "Well, we got that. Now let's get something else." And so that's my thing was when Reagan got in office, because he actually was openly talking about reining in the federal government, and he was working to rein in the federal government. And I was seeing, I was then that I realized that it's like, it's not, the Democrats are not ever going to do this. They're the ones who are actually causing the problems. And, here's somebody who's really trying to deal with this problem. And so that, that kind of shifted me over on the political side to the right, and in terms of voting and in terms of looking at, the way the conservative politicians handled business and social liberties is what I guess, or the way using the might of the federal government in the right way. It's but I was, like I said, I was raised in a Democratic household. We were always expected to vote Democratic and stuff, but I never saw anything in that leadership that gave me any confidence that they were doing anything. I mean, we had Jimmy Carter, we were offered George McGovern before that, and none of these guys instilled a great deal of confidence in me. Then, like I say, when we got around to Reagan, I saw some real action there in the right direction.
Hey, Larry, are you a lifelong conservative, or did you make a switch too?
I guess so. My first memories were, voting against Kennedy. And I can remember my parents and grandparents talking around the table. But I always considered myself basically independent. Vote for the person that's going to do the right thing. And then as I grew up, I'm studying history, and I'm a kind of a history buff. I like studying history. And the more I got studying history and looking at where the origination of these parties come from, there's no way I could be a Democrat. It was just that was scary.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
Where the Democrat was coming from, and they haven't changed in 150 years. So it's been kind of that way.
No, I don't. Here's a little statistic that most people don't know: the Voting Rights Acts of 64 and 65, in both instances, although more Democrats voted than Republicans for it. Per capita, by percentage, more Republicans voted than Democrats. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's just there weren't many Democrats in Congress then, so. Well,
you go back. It goes back clear before the 1850s and 1860s and the Civil War. But then coming out of the Civil War, it really got drastic in the difference in the two. But like I said, I look at it from a historical point of view, and I look at what everybody's doing, and I don't care what people say. It's what they do that matters.
Yes,
you can say anything. It's what you do.
And that was the magic of Trump. People were too fixated on what the media said that he said, instead of looking and saying, wait a minute, we got some great things that are happening in this country.
Thank you, Z.
That's right.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, people pay too much attention. Of course, the press is geared toward words, and so in that sense, you almost can't blame them. Their entire profession relies is based on words, and here's a guy who's talked a lot of shit. I don't think there's most fervent supporters, I think, will tell you that. The guy can talk a lot of crap. He can. I love the guy. I believe that, But you're absolutely right, Z. It's like, so he talked a bunch of crap. Look at what he did. Yeah. But no one really did. No one cared.
Well, and for one thing, the amount of money in the budget, or the actual budget expenditures while he was in office, the federal debt was less each year. The amount that went against the federal debt was less each year, which doesn't happen with any of these other people. The Biden, in their first year, the legislation that they put out there would increase it over the next 10 years by $25 trillion. And under Trump, the amount being added to the federal debt was going down and down each year.
And I think the only reason that it went up was because of COVID. Right.
Well, yeah, COVID got in the way of some of those plans. But, there were good things happening there. Trump has his personal problems, which contribute to his lack of success there in the end.
But even his personal problems were truly personal problems that really didn't have any bearing on...
I'm talking about his personal behavior, though. Good leaders surround themselves with people who might have contrary ideas.
Yeah.
But who contribute.
Exactly.
He wanted yes men. He did not like bad news. Things like that. When he got bad news, he behaved like a spoiled rich kid. And it's one thing to behave like a spoiled kid, but when you're a rich kid, when you've had everything handed to you your whole life, to react that way, it really, that left a bad taste in my mouth. It's like, why do you give a shit? If I had grown up in a billionaire household, what other people said about me, I wouldn't give a shit. If somebody opposed me, some little pipsqueak in Congress, I wouldn't give a shit. I wouldn't react to it. But he did, and that's what fueled all this fire against him. Those quirks in his behavior made him vulnerable to all the crap that came along. And that, to me, I think that's what has undercut him and what will be dredged up if he decides to run again.
Yeah, I've always said...
Well,
Yeah, go ahead, Larry. Go ahead.
Well, Reagan, they hated Reagan, too. And the reason they hated Reagan, he used to be a Democrat, and he left them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's right.
And they hated him for it.
That's right.
And the reason he left them was because he got to studying the world problems. When he got to thinking about running for national office, he started studying the world problems and the national problems. And the philosophies that solved the problems were not democratic philosophies. So he, in good conscience, had to change parties, and they hated him for it.
Oh, yeah.
That's why he got put down so bad. Okay? I've heard tons of people talking about Trump. Well, I didn't vote for Trump because I didn't like the tweets that he sent out. You didn't like what he was doing? Oh, yeah, I liked what he was doing, but I didn't like the tweets. Excuse me?
Mm-hmm.
That's craziness to me. But that's how people are.
Well, and that's this kind of stuff that got played up, and it all pointed to this, making him look. I don't think he's unstable, but it made him look, in a lot of ways, petty and vindictive, and he can be petty and vindictive, but they played up all that stuff to the point, and we know, the media did not like him from day one. He didn't like them either. Reagan knew how to deal straight up with the media, but Reagan had that gift of not caring what the opposition said about him, or thought he wasn't giving them the benefit of a soundbite over it when there was that opposition. He carried on in the direction he wanted to go. And as you said, he had studied the problems. He surrounded himself with people that were really intelligent and capable, and he would listen to them. And if they disagreed with him, that was okay. He made up his mind at the end, and in the end, he did it his way, no matter what they said. But he didn't get rid of them because they had a different idea.
Yeah.
And he didn't have Twitter either.
Well, yeah. That's anybody who's a president and wants to tweet. I'm sorry, but that I don't twit, and I think I just don't see where, if you're in a high office like that, using that platform to communicate, it can be beneficial in any way. But I'm not a modern guy, so.
Hey, are we going to go to break?
Yes, we are.
Good, because I got to pee bad.
Okay, yeah, we're going to go to break right now. We're going to go to break so Z can pee. We'll be right back.
Thunderstruck. Adjective. Shocked and amazed by the power of fun on Carnival. Riding Bolt, the world's first roller coaster at sea, Brian got thunderstruck so hard, his 93-year-old grandmother felt it 3,000 miles away in Nebraska and immediately booked a cruise. Hooray! Get thunderstruck starting at $289. Carnival. Choose fun. Cruises are in U.S. dollars per person, double occupancy. Taxes, fees, and port expenses additional. Restrictions apply. Full details on Carnival.com. Ships registry, Bahamas, Panama.
This Easter holiday, see the movie based on the inspiring true story.
Figured it out.
I'm going to be a priest.
For Halloween.
Of Father Stu.
No one wants to hear the gospel from the mouth of a gangster.
Academy Award nominee Mark Wahlberg.
Maybe that's exactly what they need.
And Academy Award winner Mel Gibson.
Man don't lose when he gets knocked down, but when he won't get up.
God ain't giving up on you. Don't you dare go giving up on yourself.
When the man comes around. Father Stu, exclusively in movie theaters April 13. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment. The Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
I muted all the mics except Conaway's. He's entertaining us for. All right, folks. I don't know if we have anything here, but
the kicker.
It's a kicker. I've had a not that you care about my tale of woe, but I've had a pretty bad week personally. A couple deaths in my family, 2 of them.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I haven't had a lot of time to prepare here, but I will pull this out. This was from the Gateway Pundit, and here's the headline, and this is really true. Someone called AOC a Hispanic version of Tammy Faye Baker. What the hell? It's like she was going on and on about she was mocked online after talking about capitalism in a really creepy Joe Biden type whisper voice. So she's talking about how terrible capitalism is, how terrible. AOC was talking about how terrible capitalism it was. Z just got back from the bathroom. I know you all want to know that. He's very fast. He's very good. The prostate still works.
Well, it's easier when you don't wash your hands when you're done.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. All this expensive equipment. Oh, wow.
As I hold the mic even closer.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, Mr. Conaway, you were talking about Twitter. Our friend Hank Reardon here got 1,000 followers on Getter in a month.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, well, and Getter's pretty good. I mean, you've got again, we're not calling it the alternate social media anymore. We're calling it the real social media of today. Getter is where you're going to find and connect with people with more conservative viewpoints. I'm on there. I think I've got 24 followers, and the time that Hank got 1,000.
Tim, I didn't even know you were on.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
even know that.
Well, I don't. A whole lot of other people don't know I'm on, and I don't even know what because you've got a special call sign on Getter, and I can't remember what mine is because I've just had the worst technological hell for the month of March. Came in like technological hell, and it's going out like the ninth ring of technological hell. Been spinning down this spiral for almost 30 days. So, but Getter is a good place. And Hank is probably not going to get kicked off Getter. Twitter, on the other hand, it wasn't Gateway Pundit. Wasn't that another place that got kicked off?
It got kicked off too. That's right. And also, Tucker Carlson got kicked off Twitter too.
Yeah.
And basically all for the same thing.
These people have no shame.
No,
Honestly,
they don't. No, it's
no
unbelievable.
Shame.
It's just they do not care. And the amazing thing is, all these instances was for stating that Rachel Levine is a biological man, which is an absolute positive fact.
Yeah.
There's no way of getting around that.
Yeah.
She may not feel like a man, but she's a man.
Yeah, it's the truth. And since our next Supreme Court judge can't define what a woman is, then even though she didn't object when Dianne Feinstein called her a woman, and when some other Democratic politician on the panel called her a woman.
Well, they should have asked her, so how would you define a black woman?
Yeah, maybe she could have answered.
You're absolutely right.
Yes,
four brilliant ideas in an hour.
Yeah, and even when she made statements about how she was getting her little girls were telling her how pleased they were that she'd made all these accomplishments being a woman and being a black woman. It had all that, but when she's asked, well, can you define woman? It's I'm not a biologist. So Rachel Levine, I'm not a biologist, but I took one look at that face, and I said, if they're making women that ugly, the human race is doomed.
Evolution is just taking a giant step backwards.
Yeah, Larry?
One of the top searches on Google this week is definition of a woman.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that was...
well, tune into CONK News, and you get to hear the world go to hell.
Yeah.
There you go. We're going to wrap this up, guys. I want to really appreciate you guys listening. I appreciate you guys being here.
But did I miss the kicker?
Oh, well,
no,
you missed
the
kicker.
Yeah, it was about the fact that somebody called AOC an Hispanic version of Tammy Faye Baker.
Wait, let me process that. Tammy Faye Baker was married to
Jim Baker.
a shyster and profited off of him.
That's right.
So
a lot of makeup.
Does that mean that she? Yeah. But I mean, does that mean that she's married to who she?
No.
I don't know. I'm not. I just she's the one that just basically says eat the rich, and so I have enough money to say AOC eat me.
Yeah. And I will not comment on that. I won't. Z, thank you. Zorro. Tim Conaway.
Keep it up.
Larry, thanks for joining us, and I hope you'll do this again.
Anytime.
We like having you around. We do. Folks, so
thank you.
I'm going to same announcement we made at the top. This coming Monday, CONK News Happy Hour on Blog Talk Radio starts an hour early for the next 2 weeks, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, rather than, I won't even repeat what the other, but that's for the next 2 weeks. That's the time. So we do hope you'll join us, and remember that. I'm Jim Peters. Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. See you. Bye.